So in our last class, we started use effect, and I explained to us in that class that use effect takes two arguments. The first argument is a callback. The second argument is an array of dependencies. Then I said if this array is empty, that means the codes in this callback will only be executed when the component mounts on the screen, when it loads on the screen. But if it has some dependencies, that means the codes within this callback will be executed when the component mounts on the screen the first time, and also when the value of these dependencies, any of the dependency, when it changes. So I said in today's class, we will continue from where we stopped last week. So today we want to look at the cleanup function of use effects. So I will delete all of this so that I focus on the cleanup function of use effects. I welcome everybody to the class. Please, do you have any question as regards last class? Maybe while you're working on your own, maybe you have questions as regards what was taught last week. So let's look at our use effect. So we have a callback, and let's put an empty array here. So use effects can also have a cleanup function. What's the meaning of that cleanup function? Sometimes you want to do some cleaning up. Maybe before you remove the component on the screen from your page, maybe when the browser moves from one page to the other, you want to do some cleaning up. Or when a value changes, maybe one of the dependencies, when it changes, you want to do some cleaning up. That is what you use the cleanup function for. To understand it, I will use an example. Last week, we faced a problem. Use a self-closing tag. From inputs. So let's create a function called us. So this is the problem we faced last week. When this value changes, let's create this let imp set imp. Okay. This set for offset imp. Okay. So as you type inside this input, whatever you type in this input becomes the value of imp. Let's add that as a dependency here. So that means whenever the value of imp changes, React will run all the codes within this callback. And this is the problem we faced last week. Let me copy the URL. JSON plus other. Alison wants to join. So we've done all of this last week. So inside this effect, we have a function. That's because we want to run this async await. Then I can say maybe response equals to this. So I can say console log response.data. So you call on this my function. Okay, so let's go over it. Because you've added this IMP as a dependency, that means whenever this IMP changes, if you call all of these codes, now this is a function and we are calling on the function here. So each time it changes, it will make a request to this URL. So if let's say this is 1, this becomes /1. If this is 2, this becomes /2. So it's going to fetch a particular user for us. Then that user you are sending it to the console. So any questions so far? Okay, so if I put a value here, you have this. Let's get the name and just display the name on the screen, just the name alone. So I can say let's name set name so instead of logging this to the console, I'll say set name is response.data dot I think username. Okay. My name is main. So as the data is being fetched, this will be set as the name, such that immediately this is set. Since it's a state, this will automatically pick it up. Then let's give this a default value. This IMP, let's give it a default values, so that when the user gets to the page the first time, I told you this is going to run first time, and that first time, IMP is going to be an empty string. It's going to be an empty string. So let's it's going to use the empty string to fetch it the first time. So let's give this a default value, maybe of 1. So initially, this is the first user, 1. As I type here like this, it changes. As I type here, you have this. As I type here, you have this. Any questions so far?
Right now, sir.
Okay. Now, instead of just displaying this on the screen, I want to show us something. Let's log it to the console also. Response.data. Let's ignore this username part. Just check the console and see what happens. I refresh. Now, notice what happens when I clear the screen. Can you see that it's fetching all the data? And that's because now it's empty. And it's possible that I may even still be typing, right? Maybe I want to type 12. It has fetched that of the first user and fetching this. Oh, I think the maximum here is 10. I think Oh, sorry, someone wants to join. Oh, flash. Oh, the last, I think the last user here is, don't worry, we'll look at error handling later too. 10 users, a maximum of 10 users. That's why you have this error 404. Let's use data that has more info. Let's use this posts so that you understand my point. Slash posts. And for posts, let's just fetch the title. So it becomes that title. The title is title like this. So what happens is that as user types inside this inputs, it calls on this and it uses whatever number the user types inside our input to fetch the title here. This is it. The post, it's going to use fetch a post. Then it will log all the data to the console, but we only need the title as the value of our title. Okay, let's continue. Set name is not defined, line 11. Okay, so this is the default title. For 45. Now, maybe I actually wanted to type 45, but while I'm still typing, it will fetch that of 4 before fetching 45. What I mean is this. Imagine I want to type 12. It first fetch that of ID of, I suppose it's the first 1, then 12. Okay. 1, 2. Okay. This ID of 12. Fetch. ID of 1 and ID of 12. Let's say I want to type 23. It fetched that out of ID of 2 and ID of 3, an ID of 23. Look at this. Do you understand the problem we are facing? Please, are you with us? We faced a problem like this last week. Let's say I want to type 67. And you see as I type it, this changes. It's going to fetch that of 6 before fetching 67. Please, are you with me? Do you understand this problem? Like, do you notice the problem? Okay. Now, the reason you have that is because as I type here, as this value changes, in fact, if I want to clear this 67 and type 31, as I clear this, it will keep fetching. It will keep fetching as I type. And a lot of instances, you don't want that to happen. You want the user to be done typing before you try to fetch a data. That's one of the reasons you use your cleanup function in your useeffect. So let's solve that problem. Your useeffects. Remember I said the first argument of your useeffect is a callback like this. Inside this callback here, this is my callback. Let's split this so that it becomes clearer. This is the first argument of my useeffect. Inside this, I have this O function. But the reason I created this second function is because I want to use async. I want to use this async. And remember I said you shouldn't put async directly on this callback. So in case you want to make an asynchronous request, you should create a function like this, then you call on the function. Now, useeffect allows you inside this useeffect, you can return another function here. Inside your useeffect, the first argument, which is a callback, can return a function like this. And the way this works is that this return function, this function you are returning here, automatically works as cleanup function. And this is totally different from this, because the reason we have this is because of a sync await. If I remove this, you can see this is standing directly inside this callback. This is standing directly inside this place. So what this tells React is that this is a cleanup function. And the way a cleanup function works is this. Whenever you change this value, this will first run before this. I come again. Whenever this value changes, this IMP, whenever it changes, it will first clean up. It will first do the cleaning up. Then this runs. When it changes again, this runs. Then the code here runs. The code here. So let's just put console log hello. Then here console log hey. Go to the browser and refresh. Now, what happens here? Hey, hello, hey. Remember I told you that because of this runs twice. Your useEffect runs twice. Now, if I change the value of my inputs, the callback on this return function runs first. Then you see this. So let me type here. You see hello before hey, and that's because that return function runs first. Then your useEffect. If I change the value again, the return function runs first and my useEffect. So the advantage of that is that you now have the ability to do whatever cleaning up. If there's any cleaning you need to do before you run the codes here, you can do it. If there's any cleaning you need to, maybe you need to clean one or two things here before you run the code here, you can do it. Let's look at an example. So what I will do now is this. I will use set timeout. You know, from vanilla JavaScript, set timeout runs a code after a particular period of time. So if I come here and say, let's remove this for now. If I say, sorry, someone wants to join. Set time out. This takes a callback like this. Then a particular period of time, let's say 3000. So that means run the code in this callback after 3000 milliseconds. That's after 3 seconds. This from vanilla JavaScript. This has nothing to do with React. Okay. Console log I am use effect. So that means because this is set timeout is inside this callback, this useEffect callback. That means whenever this value changes, whenever IMP changes, it will run all the codes within this place. But because of this set timeout, it will delay the codes for 3 seconds. That means 3 seconds after this IMP changes, it will run this code. I come again. I have IMP. Because we added it as a dependency here, that means whenever it changes, it must run all the codes within. I think I'm not so comfortable with the way this. It's good to have everything on the page like this. I think this makes things clearer. Because you have the IMP here as a dependency, that means whenever it changes, it must run all these codes, everything here. It must. Now, but then you have a set timeout here. Set timeout delays codes for a particular period of time. In this case, we put 3,000 there. That means 3,000 milliseconds. And that means the codes here will delay for 3 seconds before running this. So let's go to the browser and change this. I'll refresh. I'll come here now and change the value here. Let's say I put 6. Wait for 3 seconds. And you see I am useeffect. You see. Let's change it again. Wait for 3 seconds. And then it reflects. Good. Now, we see that this set timeout is delaying these codes for 3 seconds. Let's now take advantage of this to solve the first problem we had. So, I'll come here now, I'll comment this, then okay, I just put my function directly. What this means is that whenever this value changes, call on this after 3 seconds. It's still the same thing, just the same thing we had initially. Let's see if it's working fine. So 3 seconds later, it will fetch the title for us. What's going on? It's not fetching. My func. Oh, sorry, my bad. Okay, so 3 seconds later, it will call on this function and run all of these codes. That is, when this value changes, you know, a function does not call on itself, right? Like what I mean is, if you just define a function without triggering it, it's not going to automatically call on itself. So you have this set time out here. You are calling on this. So 3 seconds after the value has changed, it will call on this function and run all of these codes. When you change this value again, it will do this. 3 seconds later, it will run this. Okay, so that's refresh now. Now, this does not really make sense because you feel like, why do we need to delay things for 3 seconds? Let's complete it. As we have set timeout, so we also have the clear timeouts. We have set timeout and we have clear timeout. So let's go to vanilla JavaScript. Then this will make you understand what you're about doing. So let's explain something. If I have set timeout, okay, all right. Now, for a start, if I run this code, immediately I run this code now, it will wait for 5 seconds and console log hi. But I can cancel it. I may say that maybe within that 5 seconds, I no longer want it to console log hi. So what I need to do is this. I can create a variable, set this as let maybe my timeout equals to this. Then I can now say clear timeout my timeout like this. So if I click on this button before this 5 seconds before the completion of these 5 seconds, it's going to clear the timeout. That is, it will destroy the timeout. It will destroy the timeout. Let's go to the browser and see. So let's wait. First, you see hi. But this time around, I will refresh the page. Then I will click on this button before that 5 seconds. And you won't see anything here. You won't see anything. That's because this here has destroyed that timeout. This is the same principle we're about to use. You create a set timeout. You set it into a variable. Then so that in case you want to destroy that timeout, you can easily use the clear timeout on that same variable. So let's use this in our React application. Please, do you understand what I just explained?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. Okay. So we have our set timeout here. We can assign this to a variable so that in case you want to stop what is happening here, then we use the clear timeout. Use the clear timeout. So I've got a variable. Okay. I have this. This is my variable. I can say, in fact, we can assign it right here directly. That's fine. Timeout equals to this set timeout. Then we now say return clear timeout by timeout. So let's discuss how this works now. When a user changes the value here, we know it's going to run all of these codes. Whenever IIP changes, it will run all of this. This is a function, so it's going to wait for you to call on this function. But then we have this set timeout here. That means call on this function after 3 seconds. So it will be counting in its memory, it will be counting 3 seconds. 1, 2. But if before the completion of the 3 seconds, should the user type anything here again to change that value? If the user should type anything here again, remember I said it will first run this before running this part. Whenever the value of the IMP changes, it will first run this before running this. So it will first destroy that clear, it will first destroy this part. It will destroy that clear timeout. That is, it will no longer call on this my function, it will stop. If before the 30 seconds, if the user should type anything again, it will destroy this. So it will clear the timeout. After clearing it, it will run all of this again. If before the 30 seconds, the user types anything again, it means that this value has changed. It will first run this part. And remember, this part, we have clear timeout, meaning it will destroy that clear time. It will destroy this my timeout. It will destroy it. After destroying it, then it will now come on this afresh. The reason for destroying it is that by destroying it, it won't fetch the previous data. It's not going to call on this function, so it won't even do this. It won't. Do you understand how this works now? If you are lost, say I'm lost.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Please, if you don't get this, kindly signify. Okay. So this is how the cleanup function of. Let's try it on the browser and see if everything is working fine. So I will type a value here. Now, if I delete it before this, sorry, I think it was already 30 seconds. Now, in this case now, because I destroyed it before the 3 seconds, then it will only do the last one. If I'm still typing here, it's not going to fetch 1 alone, it will fetch that of 12, the one of ID 12, because I'm still typing. Since I'm still typing, except if I'm able to wait for 3 seconds before continuing typing. But once I don't stop within 3 seconds, it's not going to fetch any data. It will wait for me to stop, to pause for at least 3 seconds. If I'm able to wait for 3 seconds, then it will fetch the data for me. So I need to wait for up to 3 seconds. And this has been able to solve our problem. So assignment. Make a countdown timer with ReactJS. We put a timer here, copy an input. User comes, then type some values here, click on the button. When the user clicks on this button, let's say the user typed, I wrote time instead of input. Let's say the user typed 20 here, then click on this button. This input will start counting down 19, 18, 17 till it gets to 0. Do you understand? The user will type a value here, then click on this button, then it will count down to 0. So please make a countdown, or do a countdown using ReactJS based on what you've learned so far. Question before we call it a day.
No question, sir.
Others, do you have questions?
No question. Was well cleared. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. Good night, everybody.